Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss?, where today I will be discussing the 7th episode of the 2nd season of Star Trek Lower Decks, titled Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. This episode focuses on the chief engineer of the Cerritos, Andy Billups, who is voiced by comedian Paul Scheer, as well as a plot that involves Mariner and Boimler being stranded on a planet with a character voiced by one of Star Trek's most beloved guest stars. Before I get into all the Easter eggs and things that you may have missed while watching it, I wanted to welcome you to WDIM and hope that you can hit that like button to help support the channel. I'm getting close to 10,000 subscribers, which is a huge milestone. So if you do enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a thing, but it means a lot to a new channel like this one. The title of this episode is a quote from the story Venus and Adonis, which was written by William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare is often quoted in Star Trek, and apparently some of his best works have been converted to Klingon text as well, which is what Chancellor Gorkin told Captain Kirk in the movie The Undiscovered Country. This is at least the 5th time a quote from Shakespeare has been used as the title of a Star Trek episode, and other examples include Dagger of the Mind, The Conscience of the King, All Our Yesterdays, and By Any Other Name. Both the A and B plot lines of the story reuse plot devices that have been used before in Star Trek going all the way back to the original series. The main plot concerning Billups and his people acting like a culture from Earth's past was first used in the episode A Piece of the Action, in which the crew of the USS Enterprise found a planet where the inhabitants dressed and acted as if they were in 1920s America. The B-plot line of a computer taking over a planet is a common sci-fi trope in and of itself, but it specifically reminds me of the original series episode The Return of the Archons. In that episode, the crew of the Enterprise find a planet ruled by a mysterious leader that turns out to be a computer named Landru that must be outsmarted. This is very similar to how Boimler and Mariner are forced to outsmart Agamas throughout the episode. Agamas was voiced by legendary Star Trek contributor Jeffrey Combs, who has played so many characters it is honestly hard to count, but I believe that this marks the 9th individual character he has played, not counting all the different holographic and clone versions of these same characters. All in all, this is the 44th episode of Star Trek that he has been involved with. In an interesting bit of Trek trivia, Jeffrey Combs was actually the second choice to play Commander Will Riker on The Next Generation. Jonathan Frakes remembered and liked his performance so much that he cast him in the Deep Space Nine episode Meridian, which he also directed, and would be Mr. Combs' first of many appearances in the franchise. Mr. Combs is probably most well known for his appearance as the Vorta Wayun, which he played over 4 seasons and 5 clones on Deep Space Nine. But I think that my favorite character that he has played is the Andorian Commander Shran on the series Enterprise, as I think that he really defined an entire alien race with his performance. I would love to know which is your favorite character, so let me know in the comments which is your best loved Jeffrey Combs character. This was one of the many subjects that came up this past week when I joined Bree and Dom at Trek Central to discuss Lower Decks, and I will leave a link to that video here and in the description if you would like to see it. The plotline of 2 crew members crashing a shuttle and being forced to work together to survive is also a very common trope used on Star Trek. 2 of my favorite episodes that use this are the Next Generation episode Final Mission that put Captain Picard and Wesley Crusher together, along with the Deep Space Nine episode The Ascent that forced Quark and Odo to climb a mountain after a crash to survive. The design of Agamas looks very much like the computer HAL 9000 from the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, which also dealt with a computer that developed a human personality. Andy Billups' mother, Queen Polana, is voiced by Paul Scheer's real-life wife, June Diane Raphael, who also hosts a podcast with Scheer and Star Trek Prodigy voice actor Jason Matsoukis named How Did This Get Made? This episode also featured a new ship map for the Cerritos, which is named the Master System Display, that is designed by legendary Star Trek designer Mike Okuda. He is responsible for, among other things, the famous LCARS monitor design used by the Enterprise D and many ships since. The shuttle that Mariner and Boimler are traveling in is damaged by gravimetric shear. This is some infamous Trek technobabble that has been used a few times before and was first mentioned in the Deep Space Nine episode Behind the Lines, another episode that featured Jeffrey Combs as a guest star. When Agamas is able to access Mariner's pad, it looks like there is some text from the Ba'ul in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. The Ba'ul are an alien species introduced in the series Discovery and were responsible for the subjugation of the Kelpians on their planet, the same alien species that the character Saru is. The Ba'ul did seem to be a very sophisticated race, and since Lower Decks occurs over 100 years after the events that occurred on Discovery, this could mean that Agamas is a product of Ba'ul technology. When Mariner and Boimler are discussing what to do with Agamas, Mariner suggests burying him like Data's head. This is a reference to the Next Generation episode Time's Arrow, where a 500-year-old version of Data's head is found in a cave, and the crew must go back in time to understand how it got there. Mariner does not care much for Agamas, but Boimler states that they must protect sentient life, even if it is a robot. This is similar to the argument made over the exocomp robots in the Next Generation episode The Quality of Life, in which these small robots started to show signs of sentience, which prevented the crew from forcing them to complete dangerous tasks that they refused to do. Data is forced to defend the robots and proves it by showing the ability to protect themselves that they are in fact sentient. After Rutherford is presumed to be lost in an accident on the other ship, Tendi is convinced that he is still alive and finds him well. This is similar to the Deep Space Nine episode Armageddon Game, in which Bashir and O'Brien are reported dead after an accident, but O'Brien's wife Keiko is able to find them alive. The drones that Agnes envisions in his fantasy are very similar in design to the attack drones used in the Next Generation episode The Arsenal of Freedom, which were reportedly created using a pantyhose container and a shampoo bottle. Rutherford coming back from the dead marks the second time a character on Lower Decks has seemingly died and then returned, with Lieutenant Commander Shax having died in the final episode of the first season and then reappearing again this season. Coincidentally, Shax does not appear in this episode. Agamus is stored at the Daystrom Institute, which is a scientific research facility run by the Federation. It is named after Dr. Richard Daystrom, a character that appeared in the original series episode The Ultimate Computer. In a bit of irony, Dr. Daystrom was driven insane by a computer system he designed that became self-aware. This is actually the first time that Earth has been seen on Lower Decks, as the Daystrom Institute is in Okinawa, Japan. The end scene where we see Agamus being stashed away is very similar to the end scene of the movie The Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Ark of the Covenant is stored away among many other seemingly dangerous items. The evil computer that is 3 spaces over to the left of Agamus looks to have the CBS emblem on it, a network owned by Paramount. Well, that was everything I caught in the episode, but let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?